What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we will indeed be talking about how I would have done the MCU. Now, originally, I was just going to straight up do what if I was the president of Disney. However, that needed a little work, so instead I decided, you know what, why not, and just do this what if thing that I did on Instagram and bring it to YouTube because, some of you guys don't follow me on Instagram, so you probably don't know half the stuff I'm doing there, especially with my Spider Confessions account. But anyways, that was also where I got my Spider-Man fan project. I'm working on season 3 currently. But without further ado, let's talk about how I would have done the MCU. This is only phase 1, and I will also mention the release dates and years and all that stuff. So without further ado, let's get into it. With Iron Man, I will still kick off the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Iron Man. It will still come out May 2nd, 2008, and it will still be directed by Jon Favreau, mostly have the same cast. Now, the plot is very simple. It is basically the origin story of Iron Man, Tony Stark, and how he basically became the superhero that we all know and love Iron Man for being. So this is a very easy movie. This isn't a movie that needs drastic plot changes. So the only real change that is going to be is that Phil Coulson will not be in this movie. Instead, it will be Hank Pym who will take Phil Coulson's role. He'll basically take the exact same role Phil Coulson had in Iron Man, but it'll just be Hank Pym, because I do have something for the future. And if you're wondering who would be my Hank Pym, no, it would not be Michael Douglas. Instead, it would be Chris Pine, because I want to do Hank Pym Ant-Man. And I feel like Ant-Man's a big part of the Avengers, just history. So for him to not be there just kind of feels somewhat disrespectful, even though it's an adaptation, and it is what it is. Besides that, Iron Man won't really change. The end credit scene will still stay the same. So overall, yeah, Iron Man is mostly the same. The only difference is that Hank Pym will take Phil Coulson's place. When it comes to the second movie in the MCU, it will still be The Incredible Hulk. This will be directed by Bryan Singer, since at the time he will practically be done with the X-Men trilogy, and this will still come out June 13, 2008. Since this is my version of the MCU, Edward Norton will not be The Incredible Hulk. I mean, Edward Norton was a pretty good Hulk actor, don't get me wrong, has a Bruce Banner and the Hulk, but for consistency's sake, and just because Mark Ruffalo, I'm more used to Mark Ruffalo playing the character because he's had more time. For the sake of that, I'll make Mark Ruffalo be the Hulk in this, so we won't have any really inconsistencies, or if inconsistencies do happen, it'll be very rare. Now, with this movie, again, it has a decent plot, but this is where we're really going to change a bunch of the stuff here. We're going to make this more of a horror film, body horror movie. I feel like Hulk just plays into body horror a lot, just the concept alone, and they didn't really get to do a lot of that. The opening is perfectly okay, I'm perfectly fine with how they did that, and overall the majority, basically the story itself is okay. It just needs kind of changes in the inside, Make it more of a body horror, make it like as they were doing, completely focused on Bruce Banner. Just try to not release the Hulk, and of course the government is on him, and now he accidentally releases the Hulk, and now he's just trying to control it. Now, when it comes to the Hulk itself, you got your cameos and all this stuff, but ultimately I want to focus more on a little bit of horror in this. I would also like to make the action sequences a little bit more clear to see. And overall, the story's tone needs to be a bit more darker, yes, this might be a contrast to what later MCU films I have planned, but it gives Hulk this subgenre in the MCU of horror. Oh yeah, because Iron Man, basic superhero movie, not to say Iron Man is bad. That's basically what you associate the superhero genre with, sci-fi and all that stuff. Hulk, we're going to go into horror, and so I feel like that would be interesting. When it comes to the end credit scene, or at least what was supposed to be the end credit scene, they just put it at the end because I guess they did not have faith in this film. Instead of Tony Stark approaching Thunderbolt Ross, it will be again Hank Pym. Just to set up Hank Pym a bit in his upcoming film. But before we get into Hank Pym's movie, we are going to do Iron Man 2. And this is where we're really going to change a lot of stuff. Iron Man 2 will be about will be still about Whiplash, but it will mostly be about the potential Armor Wars happening. Now, this will not be about the storyline of Armor Wars, but instead it will be primarily about, Tony Stark's, what happened to Tony Stark's tech is in the wrong hands, and Tony tries to prevent that from happening, obviously. So, something what Iron Man 2 tried to do, but we're mostly going to focus on that aspect. We're also going to focus on Tony just not being a team player, since that is a big part of Iron Man 2, since he has to team up with Rhodey, and he has to accept that he could get help. And not only that, but also to set up Avengers and his main issue in Avengers. So with that, in that way, also Rhodey, I guess I'll keep Terrence Howard. I like Terrence Howard a lot in the Rhodey role, and I feel like he had a lot of potential. So sorry, Don Cheadle, it will be Terrence Howard Rhodey. On top of that, this movie will be just about Whiplash. All right, it will be about Whiplash and him stealing leftover Iron Man technology, and now this will go against Tony's, basic mindset of okay, I'm gonna make Iron Man tech, and now Iron Man tech is now being used as weapons. How will Tony feel about that? Since his whole I'm gonna shut down the weapons division, will he see that Iron Man, the suits are weapons also? It kind of also leads into somewhat of Age of Ultron a bit. But for now, it doesn't really kick in until, Avengers, but that's for Phase 2. But anyways, yeah, basically, we will have that whole arc of Tony, realizing his impact and how he needs to, overall be a better person in the public image and just overall try to improve as a human being and try to improve on his big flaws that are hurting him instead of holding it back. We could also talk about his whole alcoholic thing, since that is a big part of the comics. Jon Favreau will direct, and this will still come out May 7th, 2010. I was contemplating pushing it to 2011, since Jon Favreau said he needed a lot of time. But you know what? Let's just say in a perfect world, that was a good amount of time, and Jon Favreau turned out another hit with Iron Man 2. Now, let's get on over to a new movie that I added to Phase 1, which would be AntMan. And as you've been hearing what I've been saying, Iron Man 2's end credit scene will go into AntMan. It sees AntMan. And Hank Pym, basically, we're setting up Hank Pym in this universe, right? He works for S.H.I.E.L.D. So the main story, it will be directed by Edgar Wright, and it will be released on July 2nd, 2010. The story will be about Hank Pym completing his quantum, change experiment, he's experimenting with the potential quantum realm, right? He's been showing this to S.H.I.E.L.D. and how powerful it could potentially be. But the files of it get stolen by an assassin named Ghost, and Hank tries to hunt down Ghost and make sure he doesn't spread this quantum information. Because if it just is casually there, and people have this power of the quantum physics and these quantum level powers or things that Hank has been experimenting on, it'll be very dangerous, especially in local street thugs using it. And of course, the main villain will be Ghost and Hammerhead. I want to add in Hammerhead since I have nothing for him for the Spider-Man films. So I was like, let's just give Hank Pym Hammerhead. Because, why not? Why not? Why not? I mean, you look at the actual MCU AntMan movies, Yellow Jacket isn't even a villain in the comics. It's just another superhero outer ego thing for Hank Pym in the comics. And Ghost is an Iron Man villain. So I wouldn't mind pulling some villains from the comics here and there, because Ant-Man's Rose Gallery isn't the greatest of Rose Galleries. So I'll be perfectly okay with using a couple of characters here and there. This will definitely have Chris Pine starring, and this will somewhat set up two things. This will set up Thor's hammer, and yeah, it will basically have Iron Man 2's original end credit scene. So that's what Ant-Man will have. And basically, we're going to tease that the Wasp might have an influence. We'll have two end credit scenes. One that sets up the Wasp for Avengers, and the other one that sets up Thor's hammer for, Thor, which we're about to get to right now. Thor, I made it somewhat similar to Aquaman's plot a bit here. It will be directed by James Wan in my perfect universe, anyways, and it will be coming out May 2nd, 2011, like it originally did. So basically, what is the whole thing about Thor? So the changes I will make is that it will be more focused on space and exploring the world. We will still have Earth be a valuable part, but instead of Thor, going to Earth and learning humility, we're going to see a Thor that's just kind of chilling on Earth. I would take some snippets of the Ultimate comics and put a Thor that, Odin is ashamed of, I guess. Odin is not happy with something Thor did. And this will be revealed later on in the movie. And Thor decided, you know what, forget it, I don't want to be king of Asgard. I'm moving to Earth. And so Thor has been on Earth for a year now. Let's say that he's been putting up the mantra of Donald Blake, and he's been dating this nice girl named Jane Foster. So life on Earth for Thor is pretty good. However, he's hearing that his brother Loki is causing issues in Asgard, and Valkyrie will come and will try to get him to come back to be the rightful ruler of Asgard. But see, Thor does not have Mjolnir because that was completely destroyed in his, squabble with his father because they had an issue. And the big issue is basically what happened in the first Thor movie, right? With Thor disobeying his father from killing pretty much walkers, and but not actual walkers. But anyways, yeah. So Odin is mad at him for that. He banished him. He destroyed Mjolnir instead of giving the power to who's worthy of Thor. He decided to destroy Mjolnir because he feels like it might be a threat to anybody that has it that isn't Thor, and Thor isn't worthy. So what's even the point of keeping it destroyed? And so now Thor must go on his quest to find, he must find Stormbreaker. But before that, he goes to Asgard. He sees what's happening. He's like, what the hell, Loki? And, Loki's whole thing, we get to see it. And we get to see how awful father Odin is. Ultimately, though, Thor does, save Asgard. We will still have that same ending of, oh, is Loki dead? No, he's not, really. And then Odin will apologize to Thor and will try to recreate Mjolnir, but no, Thor will be perfectly okay using Stormbreaker. So yeah, I'm going to take a little bit inspiration from the Ultimate Comics. I feel like what they did is basically what Justice League kind of did, but since this will come out 7 years before Aquaman will, we're taking it a bit. And we're kind of twisting it to fit for the Thor storyline, So you'll still have Thor have some emotional connection. Okay, so now the hammer thing doesn't even make sense. But I mean, we can still keep it for the end credit scene, and maybe in the actual movie we could show it landing on Earth and then probably being destroyed, something like that. I really don't know, but we will have some end credit scene that links to Thor from AntMan. So yeah. But ultimately, when it comes to Thor, the end credit scenes will stay the same. We'll still have Loki manipulating a couple of people down on Earth to launch his invasion on New York. And the second end credit scene could be like a little funny gag end credit scene with Thor and whatever happened in the film or what funny gag was in there. So yeah, Thor will have a connection to Earth. We will set that up early in the beginning, but after that, the movie will mostly take place in space and different places, be a cosmic movie. And this will lead us straight into Captain America, the first Avenger. The only changes here is that the Russo brothers will direct, and this will come out on the 4th of July weekend in 2011. So July 1st, 2011. So what is the deal with Captain America? Honestly, I wouldn't really change a thing. And I know that sounds weird, and there is stuff that you can improve on with the first Captain America, but those are just kind of minor stuff. That isn't plot stuff. And honestly, I think Captain America, again, just like Iron Man, it did a pretty good job of setting up the origin of the superhero that we are focusing on. Iron Man did a good origin of Iron Man, and Captain America did a pretty good origin story for Captain America. So, I wouldn't really change anything about that movie. Which leads us straight into Avengers, the big crossover movie. Pretend that Ant-Man and the Wasp is taking Black Widow and Hawkeye's positions. Just imagine that. So yes, we will introduce the Wasp in this. I mean, Janet will already be in the first Ant-Man film. She will be there, has the support for Hank during that. So, I mean, the only real change is that Hank and Janet will be in the movie instead of Hawkeye and Black Widow, because I will not introduce them quite yet. And I feel like a lot of you will be mad about what I'm going to do to Hawkeye, but I'm really not going to spoil anything here. But basically, we have them in the movie, and yes, it will still go according to plan. Hank Pym gets manipulated by Loki, so he's under mind control. So, yeah, we will have the Wasp that does help the Avengers, and it is her first time being a superhero, and she has to, this is her first time being a superhero, pretty much. And again, the movie will mostly go the same, because Avengers is a perfect movie, I think. I feel like. I mean, does it have issues? Yeah. But for what it was trying to be, I wouldn't necessarily change it. I feel like what it was going for was really good, and I would rather not change that. But overall, yeah, Avengers will not really change. It will be we'll leave it like that. But now it's time for the end credit scenes, where we set up Thanos. Right? Wrong. We're not. We are going to set up Thanos down the line, but we'll also set up the aliens or the villains of Secret Wars a bit. Tease Secret Wars potentially happening with two cosmic beings, or let's say the Watcher is like pretty much watched the events of the Avengers go down, and he's like, oh no, those two, like he's like, oh man, the prophecy will soon happen. The prophecy will happen, and it's gonna go down. What's gonna go down? I did say Secret Wars, but the way I'm gonna do Secret Wars is gonna be different. So we're gonna tease that. We're gonna tease a Watcher watching the events of Avengers and saying, oh yeah, the prophecy, it's gonna happen. It's going to go down. Things are going to happen that will really impact the universe for the upcoming years. Teasing, there is definitely a lot more stuff to come. And the Avengers was just the catalyst to really kick off those things. Where the MCU officially begins. And that's it for phase 1 of the MCU. This is how I would have done it. How would you have done phase 1 of the MCU? Tell me in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.